What's going on, guys? This is X. Welcome back to another episode of Deck Rotation. We're already on the deck profile screen because I want to just kind of start working on this already. It's been a long time since we've actually had a deck rotation. It's been 2 weeks, and I apologize for that. But you know, we're here now. We're going to actually do this one. And what better way to celebrate the release of Set 8, Minerva Rising, with none other than Minerva herself. You know, Minerva is an encounter card. I'm not really a fan of encounter cards, but I decided to bite the bullet because this is her set, so why not just do it? And here we are. So, pretty much Minerva is a very fan favorite deck from old Vanguard back in the Limit Break era days. In fact, she is so popular, she's the only unit card by Vanguard at this present time of recording that has an actual figure. Right, you could actually go buy a Minerva figure and you actually have the only Cardfight Vanguard figure in existence. It's kind of insane how popular she is. But she never got a retrain outside of one stride at the end of G era and then never got one in V. So this is effectively her first full retrain in almost 10 years. So that is pretty something. It's actually a big deal. So let's actually go over the deck list and kind of talk about my thoughts on the deck itself. So firstly, this is a deck that can actually, depending on your setup, go between 6 to surprisingly 8 attacks on a turn, which is kind of like the biggest cap of a deck since grade 3 Bruce hitting full combo. But that required so many pieces. I don't think this deck is just as piece reliant, but you know, I think it's still pretty good. So let's actually kind of look at Omniscience Regalia Minerva and go over it. So first off, she has 3 abilities. Her first one is continuous. During your turn, if your soul has a grade 3 card Regalia, all your from one gets plus 5k. Really powerful. Persona right turns. Heck, is active turn 3 because you can shove her actual assistant card Angelica into the soul and do her effects, and then immediately the effect is turned on. And so that's pretty much how you primary get it off turn 3. You could theoretically get it off even earlier without having to deal with that with the effect of the Ride deck, which we'll get to in a second. So Minerva has a second skill, which is a act that once returned you can Soul Blast 1 and check the top card, and I put it back on top of the deck or into the soul. Pretty much the way to kind of determine, depending on your hand, if you need a Genesis. You know, look at the top card of your deck, make sure you drive check it. If you want a trigger, make sure you check the top card of your deck and go through and try and see if you can grab the over trigger fast. Or you just really need some soul, put it in there. So it fixes soul, it checks top card of your deck, make sure your drive checks are gonna be actually useful for you, and that's cool. And the third effect is and if your opponent's Vanguard is grade 3, after she attacks, Camus 1 Soul Blast 3, this card, adjust this card, and restand her, she gets drive +1. Drive -1, excuse me. And this is kind of where the big combo of the actual turn comes in. With the Soul Blast 3, you will Soul Blast the grade 2, which we'll get to, and actually call out 2 to 3 units on your turn, resetting your board, getting 6 attacks, making Minerva pretty powerful going second, which is her main real thing. She wants to go second and actually hit the have your opponent go grade 3, which is very rare in this day and age. So that's the main thing. So on to the second grade 3, we have Regalia Wisdom Angelica. Regalia Wisdom Angelica is pretty much your main counter unit. She Soul Blast 1 to give your Vanguard plus 5k, and then put her into soul to countercharge 1. So this is also in a going first strategy in which you will, Soul Blast out your grade 2, call it after you've effectively used your Angelica, which is vacate the spot, and now you've got 4 attacks, and you can probably do something with that. You have 2 Angelicas, you can get 6. You can get 5 attacks with pretty nice ease, and you can refund your Counter Blast, which is always necessary in V, which is why this deck is actually pretty good. Angelica is your main source of counter charge, and she's just really good for doing so. As for the last card, if I can actually pull up the order zone, that is not what I'm looking for. we have the Gradius Gradal, which is the Regalis piece we currently have. Currently, the only one at the current time is a grade 3, and its effect is simply if you have a grade 3 with Persona Ride and you have not rode this turn, activate Persona Ride, which means you get to draw a card, you get plus 10k to the front row, meaning your Persona Ride is active. This is effectively your 4th copy of Persona Ride in decks that aren't grade 4 based, which, you know, is pretty powerful. So that's kind of the main reasons there. It's a one of, you gonna run one of it, and that's it. Personally, if it weren't for the fact that like everything else in the deck is pretty much like settled up and taken care of, I don't know what else you really run. It's really just here as like a space filler. There's a lot of other cards you could run instead of it, but pretty much it's just here to fill up space and potentially go off and activate Persona Ride when you don't have it. So now, if we go on to the grade 2s, if you just give me just 1 second, I am sorry. We will go on to the first card in the Ride deck, which is Witch Arabia's Chamomile. This is the card I was talking about that combos well with Minerva. She has 2 skills. Her first skill is when she's rode upon by a Genesis. Look at the top 5 cards and choose with the 2 cards from among them, put in your soul, and shuffle your deck. Pretty effective. Gets you potentially an Angelica into soul immediately to activate Minerva's skill. Gets you a lot of soul. Potentially search for more Chamomiles in the grade 1, which we'll also get to later. And you know, that's pretty good. It's deck winning pretty much. And she has the second skill, which is very more important, which is when it's put for your soul to your drop during your turn. If you have a Minerva Vanguard, Counterblast 1, call to rear. Bam. Multi-attack for Counterblast. Pretty easy to do. You can scry, you can activate the effects with other cards and get it on the board, put it into the soul by other means, etc, etc. Just, you know, really easy to proc, really easy to get on and whatnot. Pretty much the main playmaker of the deck itself. Now, if we go into the second most important card in the grade 2 lineup, which is Drilling Angel. Drilling Angel has a skill. When placed on rear, for a card from your drop zone to your soul, look at top 3. If you have a card with the same name as the card you put into soul, you can call it, otherwise shuffle your deck. Pretty much this is how you're going to get your Chamomiles into the soul from discarding it from Ride deck, or they've been popped by card effects. You know, they're gone, so you can always like bring them back and reuse them. So Drilling Angel is effectively like a very, very big priority card for, you know, making sure your soul's set up with Chamomiles and Melissas for actual multi-attack shenanigans. And so that's why he is pretty much in here. He is set up to make sure that you have your turn go off correctly. He is consistency, and when he does get the call off, you can do a really nice grade 2 rush. And for the last card, there are 2 actual cards here that a lot of people actually choose to run, which, if I can find where that other card is, I can talk about for a second. It is here. Here it is. Knight of Piercing Kaiwala, which is a card from the Youth Pro Trial deck. This is one that, you know, I already mentioned, a lot of people run instead of the other card. Simply put, it's just, you know, end of battle, you search, you add cards to your hand. If you didn't reveal anything, you draw a card instead. It's a very like advantage gaining card. And, you know, I can definitely see the merit to run. But this deck runs the Knight of Rendering Flash Carabre. Carabre has a skill. When it's placed on rear, Camel's on Soul Blast 1, look at top 3, choose card among them, reveal it, call it to Rigor Circle if it's a grade 2 or less, and put it into your hand. If it isn't, shuffle your deck. So pretty much if you get a Persona Ride or the Regalis piece, add to your hand. If not, you can just call a free card. Add all in. That's pretty much just some card advantage. I think it's much more direct in its advantage instead of just you know what you're getting with the card instead of instead of Kawala. So I think that's just really a plus in its usage, you know. So that's what it is. On to the grade 1s. We will go on to the right deck grade 1 first, which is Witcher Frogs Melissa. I talked about this. It's the same skill as Chamomile. Look at top 5 for Genesis when rolled upon by Genesis. I mean, look at the top 5 for 2 cards put in the soul if you rolled a Genesis. And when it's put into your drop from soul, we have a Minerva Vanguard, call to a back row rearguard circle, and soul charge. Another soul charge outlet gives you another booster, helps for the combo that allows you to reset your board somewhat, and you go from there. We also have the 3 PGs and the 1 Elementary Sanctitude. Pretty much the norm from now. It makes sense. As for the other grade 1, we have 4 Applewitch Cider. Cider has the skill at the end of battle you to boost it. If you have a Minerva Vanguard, bounces to your hand. And when it's put on Regalian Circle, if you have a grade 3 card with Regalian's card name in your soul, it gets shield plus 5k. So it's 10k shield. It's another great shield value. It's a booster that can bounce itself. So it has a lot of actual utility in the deck, and that's really great. The trigger lineup is these usual 7 crit, 3 draw, 4 heal, 1 over trigger, and the starter is the Vivid Rapid, which is the Genesis encounter. So that's pretty much all the deck profile. As you can see, pretty standard stuff, and it's really cool. Now let's get into the actual live gameplay commentary, and see how the deck functions. Alright guys, we're back for live game commentary. We are going up against Nirvana, using the support from, well, I really don't know what support. Well, it's pretty much primarily using the support from from the upcoming set 9, of course, because that's what we're doing. And so we're up here, and our hand is actually not looking too bad. We have a Chamomile, we have a Drilling Angel, so we can actually immediately shove one to the soul to get 2 already in play. We've got a Carebrae, which means our grade 2 rush is looking nice. So let's actually go in and see what we do. So we start. We draw, discard Chamomile into our Melissa. They will discard the Barbarina into Reno. They attack, they don't get a trigger. We lose Cider. So then we discard into Chamomile, and we shove in a Minerva because our check top 5 is actually terrible. We call Drilling Angel call one of our Drilling Angels to go into Chamomile. Then we check top 3, nothing there. Then we swing for 10, draw trigger, and we rush him into 2 damage, which is pretty good. They go into Rayu, call second Trick Star. They will go Uraga, 15, we'll take it, and we lose a Melissa and another Cider. So our Ciders are not looking great. We are losing our Apple Cider. So we check top 5, and we will add a Chamomile and a Carebrae, which is actually pretty crazy. So this is, we go 13. We Soul Blast Chamomile for Counter Blast. Unfortunately, because of the way we combo, we can't get the counter charge of that. So but it's still 15k to the board. They have to drop 35 to make it a 2 to pass. Which is cool. We get a crit, give it all to Chamomile. They'll take it, they'll draw, and then we pass turn. They will go into Jiba. They will do shenanigans. It will actually go into a second Barbarina, which is actually kind of crazy because I've never really seen a lot of people consider like Barbarina to be anything more than like a one of. I guess it's a pretty nice one of, but I've never seen a deck really run 2. And oh wait, I remember now. This turn actually kind of gets kind of crazy. It's like, honestly, I'm like, how the heck did I survive this? I have no idea. So they'll go into battle, and they will swing with Barbarina to get the Counterblast 1 in the drive check. And this is where pain happens. They will hit the crit. They give the crit to their power to Devon Jiva. Go Barbarina, and I have to guard all of this. So 38, guard this, restands the Barbarina, which will now get its drive again. So I have to kind of consider how I do it. Do I PG here, or do I PG the Barbarina? What do I do here? And I think my choice is to just hard guard Nirvana Jiva, and then Spine, and then PG Barbarina, which was a good call because they hit another crit. I Persona Ride into Minerva, and I actually checked the top card of my deck because I need to know if I have another Genesis unit coming, and I actually don't. I actually don't have a crit, so I have to call one Angelica to make sure I can actually activate Minerva's restand. So I attack, they hard guard it. I put Angelica in the Soul Blast the Minerva to then restand. I hit a crit in a draw, activate Minerva's skill, call all through 2 Cameos and Melissa, restand, and then go 53. They have to, the 3 cards in hand, they have to drop PG here, and pretty much at this point they can't really guard anything, which is pretty nice. I will say that Nirvana Jiva turn, that one turn they have, was actually pretty scary, and if I didn't guard it right, I'm pretty sure I just died. I'm 100% convinced I just died right there. So that's the joint there. Alright, and so we're back with the actual deck, the actual gameplay, and we're going to kind of get my final thoughts on the deck. Minerva is a pretty solid deck. It's it is a multi-attack faceted deck that has a lot of combo potential. It has a pretty nice advantage engine and has a pretty nice amount of shield value. I think really, if there's one negative thing I'd say about it, is there is a chance you can just hard brick, and not to mention going first means that your plays are really limited because of how Minerva's restand is worded. So you have to really make sure, you have to be careful what you do going first. Going second, you have a lot more play room to actually make plays and whatnot. But overall, I think Minerva itself is just a really solid deck, and I think if you were trying to buy something from DBTO8 to actually play around with, I think Minerva is a great choice. I'm sorry this deck rotation has been kind of scuffed. There's been a lot on my plate, but here we are. We've got to take care of, and next week I will definitely get one out, and you'll see why when it actually drops. So thank you all for tuning in. If you like more Vanguard content, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.